talking today with Brian Pegouske of Portage, Michigan. The interviewer is John Smither with Grand Valley State University on its History Project. Okay, Brian, start us off with some background on yourself, and to begin with, where and when were you born?
Sure, I was born in Lincoln Park, Michigan in 1970.
Did you grow up in that area?
Yep, spent all the way through high school in that area.
Okay. And what was your family doing for a living then?
My parents both worked for the auto industry, off and on during the 70s as they got laid off and went back to work. But that was primarily what they did, is work for the auto industry, Chrysler.
Okay. And then when did you graduate from high school?
In 1988.
Okay. And then what did you do after you graduated?
I joined the Army Reserve and went to college.
Okay. And where did you go to college?
University of Michigan Dearborn.
Okay. And what were you studying there?
Behavioral science.
Okay. All right. And why did you join the Army Reserve?
I come from a background, a military family. My dad served, my grandfather served, my brother-in-law was in the service, my brother, my friends. So we all feel it's important to spend time in the service, and so I joined the reserves to help me for college in one way, but also to do my time for the country. So.
Okay. And then, so you're entering the reserve then right away in '88, sort of after high school. Okay. And what unit were you joining?
The 5064th U.S. Army Garrison.
Okay. And is that a battalion or just a garrison? Is a garrison just called a garrison?
Yeah, garrison's a kind of a backup support unit. So our overall mission was to back up Fort McCoy, Wisconsin, if it was ever activated. So basically, we have all sorts of support positions, all the way from transportation to human resources to finance to weapons training, so a variety of different branches across the military to help supplement a full fort.
Okay. Now when you go in, do you get a basic training of some kind?
Yes, you go to basic training first. So I went to Fort Knox, Kentucky for basic training, which was an experience. Lots of learning there. Fort Knox is in the hills of the mountains, so a lot of running and marches up the hill and all that good stuff.
Okay. Now, what kind of reception do you get when you arrive at Fort Knox? What do they do with you?
It's the full-on, I'd say, basic training all the Army goes through. You meet your drill instructor, who's generally pretty loud, and you learn to fall in and do what you're told for the 16 weeks. You get all sorts of different training from weapons to going into a gas chamber without a mask, learning how to don your gas mask. Like I said, marches, runs, push-ups, doing things all hours of the day, going out in the field, all different things.
All right. Were you in good shape when you went in?
Well, I was in decent shape. I was a soccer player and a swimmer in high school, so but it still takes a lot out of you. I mean, sometimes if you happen to get in trouble, not intentionally, and you have to stand in or hold in push-up formation for 30-35 minutes, it takes a lot out of you. So.
All right. Now, how easy or hard was it for you to adjust to the Army way of doing things?
It's definitely a transition because, like I said, everything is very structured. You're told what to do, when to do. You really get to rely on your fellow soldiers in your unit to support you because you can't accomplish everything alone. So they really break you down and then start building you back up through basic training. So that, in the event you have to go to war and go overseas, that, you hopefully at least got some exposure to different things and can handle what comes.
And you can, I guess, follow orders automatically.
Sure.
And know what. Now, 16 weeks, do you get anything specialized, or is it all just standard, everybody gets the same thing?
Yeah, the basic training is standard for everybody, so they go through the basic training at Fort Knox is one of them, and there's some other posts, Army posts that do basic training, and then after that, people, based on their MOS, their military occupation, then they go on to advanced AIT, advanced something.
Well,
training.
individual training
Yeah.
normally. I guess what I was asking, but basically, the Fort Knox, that was all just basic?
Sure.
Okay. Because the length of basic training varies over time, so I guess check that out. Okay. So you have the basic, and now you get to report to your unit. Or had you been with the unit for a while before you went to basic, or did you do that first?
I met the unit when I set up, but just a short time. It kind of depends on your cycle of how you, or when basic training is. Sometimes you report to your unit first. I think I went once or twice and then went to basic. And then after that went to the AIT, which is for personnel. I was a personnel specialist, and that was at the time in Fort Benjamin, Harrison, Indiana, which I don't think exists as an active duty post anymore.
It's a country club. Yeah. But outside of Indianapolis.
Yeah.
Okay. So what did the personnel training consist of?
That was another, I think, if I remember right, about 12 weeks of individual training about your job skills. We did, again, because the Army is expected to do everything, even if it's an office job, you're still expected to do it in the field. So you do field work as well. So you have a field desk, so you have to have contingencies for doing, paper process. Computers were just kind of getting going then, so we could do some things via computer. But if you went to the field desk was all manual process. So you learn both the manual process, how to set up your field office, your field tent. How to live in the field for several weeks, and then back in the office, learn that actual role of processing people into the personnel system and handling questions on promotions, all those type of paperwork processes that happen with soldiers throughout their careers come through the personnel area.
Now, when you're in basic training and then in AIT, were you in with people who were coming in as sort of regular Army full-time people? So they were mixed in with the reservists?
Sure, yeah. That's in a mix. So you can go and, people come from all over and then they disperse out to various units, whether they be reserve or active duty.
Now, when you're in training, especially the basic training, is there any difference in treatment between what the reservists get and the ones who were going in full-time?
No, it's the exact same training. Nobody really knows. We're all intermixed.
Well, the drill sergeants would know, but if they want to.
Possibly, right, yeah.
Because there's some phases where that does matter, particularly say Vietnam era, that kind of thing.
Okay.
There's sometimes a difference, but in this case not. So that's why I asked.
Okay.
All right, yeah. Now, with personnel or something like that, do you have the sense that most of the people who do that are Guard and Reserve types? Or?
No, there's that happens on active duty. Certainly personnel actions that happen from, promotions to downgrade. It's all a process, and it was even more of a manual process back then. Imagine, obviously, most more is computerized now, but all those actions, award actions, when people get put in for any meritorious service awards or any type of awards, those are personnel actions that'll get processed through personnel and get approved by the commanders and things like that. But all those actions take place both on active duty and reserves.
Okay. Now, your reserve unit itself, what kind of atmosphere or climate was there? You come in, you join the unit, how did people treat you? How did things seem to work?
Yeah, it was a good climate. Like I said, it's interesting because we had a variety. It wasn't a specific unit like an MP unit or transportation unit. So we had people from all sorts of job occupations kind of coming together, and so that was different and interesting. And always knowing that our mission would be to support an active duty complement. So we were always training for that possibility.
All right. Now, eventually your unit, you actually go active or activated
Right.
The Persian Gulf War hero. Before that activation happens, was there any kind of particularly notable things that happened or memories that you got of working with that unit before the activation?
Yeah, I mean, there's, in a reserve unit, you spend 1 week and a month with the team, and usually 2 weeks during the summer sometimes. So we spent some time at Fort McCoy for our 2-week training. We spent some time at Fort Custer in Michigan for some of our trainings, and again, you just come together and you train for that possibility. What would happen. If you're called to active duty, you always got to do your weapons qualifications each year. You have to do your physical fitness tests every year, still in the reserve. So all those standards have to be maintained, similar to active duty. And so you just have less time to do them. So you get in your 2 weeks. You got a lot to do. You got to make sure all your qualifications are in. So it's good times, long days.
All right. Now, you. So we kind of gotten the story up to the point now. So when you get activated, when does that happen?
In August of 1990.
Yeah. At that point, had Saddam Hussein gone into Kuwait yet, or did that come later?
No, yeah, that comes later. We were one of the first reserve units activated. It was kind of the build up, the call up in preparation, because there was some rumors and some troubles in the area, but we hadn't gotten to the point where he had went into Kuwait.
Right. Okay. So at this point, sort of the Army, though, they're aware enough of what's going on, they're getting ready in case something happens.
Right.
And part of that. Okay. So now, you've been at this point. Are you still in school, or have you graduated?
I'm in college,
Yeah.
so I've been in about a year and a half into college. Actually, just going into my second year. I got called up, so that didn't happen.
All right. So off you go. Now what? The call comes. Now what happens?
So the call comes. We all gather and get on buses and head over to Fort McCoy, Wisconsin, again to supplement that post. It's generally a reserve kind of training post, but it becomes a full active duty post at the time to call up units from throughout the Midwest and process them in, get them trained, get them.
There's no more water here.
All right, thanks.
So our mission was to support Fort McCoy and process in troops from throughout the Midwest, and again with all the multiple things that our unit could do. We had people that would help do training, get them qualified, get them equipped with, at that time we all still wore green uniforms, and so we had to get them in desert uniforms. We had to get the vehicles painted the desert, so we had people in our unit that did those various things, loaded equipment from here onto rail cars, loaded the personnel onto planes, and sent them direct from Fort McCoy to overseas.
Okay. Now, what specific jobs do you do?
So my specific job was still in personnel, and so my responsibility was to, because we had both National Guard units coming on and Army Reserve units coming through, and so each of those records are separate from the active duty Army records, so we had to get those records transposed into the active Army system. The Reserve transition was a little smoother than the National Guard transition, because National Guard is state by state, so National Guard can do field grade promotions based on the state and the governor's signature, and some of those promotions did not get processed all the way through and connect to the active Army system, or it was, a slow process. So, there's promotions. So if somebody came on board and they were a staff sergeant, but when we converted the record, the active Army showed them as a Sergeant E5. We had to figure out that process and track down the paperwork, and because again, these people were going to be overseas, their family would need the money, and of course we want to get paid properly. So we had to track down the records, call back to the states, get out all the records straight, get it updated in the active Army system, get them converted, and just validate, each person that was on the rolls, that they were here, that they were, going, and that we loaded them on a plane and sent them. So.
All right. Now, how much of this was paper and how much was computer?
It was computer, but it was like, it was called SIPers back then, something personnel, and it was kind of DOS. It was converting like DOS-based. So we can input stuff into the computer and talk and get some printouts, some basic printouts, but you're talking dot matrix printouts and things. So not an easy thing to pull up on like a laptop or anything like that. So.
Right. Okay. So at its peak or whatever, what kinds of shifts were you working?
It would vary on when we brought the units in and how long that we had for them. Some would process through us in a matter of a couple of days, depending on the size of the unit. So those could be long days, long hours to make sure to validate everything and get them on the plane. Some units we had with us for a week or 2 weeks. So it would just vary on the amount of time we had with the unit and the size of the unit. We process units as small as, I think the smallest unit was 12 people, 12 engineers. And then we had larger units of 100 or 200 soldiers. And we processed 94 units in the matter from August to about January was the last unit we shipped overseas. And then the conflict happened, and we found out it went fairly smoothly, thank goodness. And so then we weren't sure what was going to happen, and then we got notification we would start bringing troops back. So
okay.
So we were the first on, and we stayed on a full year to bring all the 94 units that we processed. We brought them all back home before our unit stood down.
Okay. All right. A year's active duty, for you as a college student, that mostly meant that the college education was interrupted, but otherwise maybe not a huge hardship.
Yeah, no, not huge. I ended up, because it was August to August, ended up missing about a year and a half of school. I couldn't go back right in. The school year was already started when we got back, and it just kind of put school behind and kind of took me out of sync with those that were, were in my original class.
Right.
So that was kind of different. So.
Okay. Now, did you have older guys in the unit who had, families, regular jobs and things? What sort of effect does it have on them to be gone for a year like that?
It varies again depending on their situation. But we had, in our unit, our commander was a full-bird colonel. So obviously he'd been in the military a long time, and we had a command sergeant major in the unit. So we had everybody from multiple. Some of them had probably over 20 years down to people who just enlisted, and different all sorts of different family situations. So my one friend was married at the time, and I had another friend. Her husband was actually active duty in the military, and he was already on active duty, and she was activated during this time, so which left their child with the grandparents. The different, I think my one friend, after the year got back, it just, people get used to living kind of separate, and that's not always good for a relationship.
No.
So yeah, some struggle with that for sure.
All right. And now, I mean, how did you find the work? Was it interesting for you, or was it feel like it was worth doing, or you're doing something useful, or was it just shuffling paper?
Oh no, I mean it was useful. I mean, because of the work we did, especially with the National Guard units, I was put in for a meritorious service medal. I got downgraded to an Army achievement, but it was important work because again, those people, in all those units needed to get paid properly. I mean, it's essential. So because most that money was going to be going direct deposit to home, and those families were relying on it. So definitely essential. And like you said, my friend, I had friends, and one friend worked in transportation, and he loaded the rail cars. My other friend, she worked in the command center for the fort. So all the roles are just essential to make sure everything happens, so those people couldn't get overseas. So.
All right. When you get to the end of that year-long cycle, would you be able to get some leave time or whatever, go back home to Michigan, or?
We took. I got one weekend to drive home to Michigan during that year, so we did take a weekend.
Yeah, for just a weekend.
Yeah.
And a lot of that time is spent on the road.
Right. Yeah. So.
Hopefully, good traffic in Indiana.
Yeah, so actually, it's funny. I mean, we started to drive, me and my friend, and we got to Chicago, and of course, Chicago traffic can be terrible. We stopped and flew from Chicago home, and then to Detroit, and so we cut the trip that way. And that's it. It just seemed to make sense at the time. I'm not sure it all worked out better or not, but.
Did some of the married people get a little bit more time, or were you all kept the same existence?
Yeah, I mean, it was just, there was so much going on. We didn't have a lot of time to do anything. So.
Okay. Now, your friends are people you knew back home. I mean, how much are they aware of or interested in what you were doing at that point? You went away for a while and you came back, and okay.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them just kind of moved on with life, and I mean, they were sort of aware. The Gulf War was sort of a funny thing because it was short. I mean, it was pretty quick, and I don't know if a lot of people really realized that what happened, that it happened. That we had, I don't know. They all realized we had people over there. So it varied.
Yeah, and you didn't come back until well after it was over. So.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you come back. So now you're able to pick up your education again, go back to school. After you get back again in '91, you got another 3 years or whatever. Did you sign up initially for 6 years, or did you sign up for a shorter term and extend? Or?
6 years. Yeah. One thing. Go back on that. The other thing that we were preparing for, unfortunately, is in case there were any deaths out of the people that we had sent over. So I was selected as part of the Honor Guard.
Okay.
So I was actually the person that would have been in charge of taking the flag and presenting it to the family. So, we worked long days processing troops, but after that, we went out and had to practice, honor guard, and practice, make sure we fold the flag properly, make sure the protocol was right, make sure our second pair of boots were shined. So that, we do that for, an hour and a half on different days to just make sure, if we ever had to get called to do that we would do it right. So.
But you didn't get called to do that?
No, out of the 94 units that we processed, we didn't lose anybody, thankfully. So.
Good. All right. So now that's over. You kind of go back, pick up things where they were before. What else kind of goes on for you then between 91 and 94? So that
Yeah, so back to school and getting into that routine. I went to work full-time. I worked full-time for Meijer in retail. So went back to school, worked full-time, and I graduated in 94. So.
Okay. And did you give any thought to staying in the reserves, or?
Yeah, actually, between 93 and 94, I was graduating from college, or planning to graduate from college. So I actually submitted my packet for officer candidate school, and it was processed and approved. So I went through the board selection and tons of paperwork to think about that, and the selection came back, and that would have meant another I think 6 or 8 year commitment to go to officer candidate school. So again, that would have been an officer candidate school. Again, would have been back to the full active duty officer candidate school. So it would have went through the same Fort Benning that all the officers go through.
Right.
And so I weighed that for a while. I got married in '93, so you know, that played a big role in saying it was time to just let that part of life go. So.
All right. So then once you're out, what kind of career do you go into?
I got into management at Meijer, so I was a grocery department manager for a while, a supermarket manager, so operating the food side of the store, and ultimately a store director for a number of years. I worked for them in a couple different areas, and then I went over to the Chicago area and was a director of retail services for them, which is a support to the regional manager, so multi-unit structure there, and did a lot of support roles for the region. So did that for 18 years total in Meijer, including the time I spent there during college, and ultimately ended up going to work, leave there. I went to work for Lowe's as a store manager for about 2 years, and then that brought me to just thinking about the working retail, the hours, the holidays, and things like that. I wanted to do something that's more fulfilling, I think. So at that time, I looked at various options of what I can do and how I can use my life, and I thought back to my military service, and you just miss that kind of camaraderie of some of the people. So I looked at career options within the VA, and ultimately in 2010 I joined the Battle Creek VA Medical Center and worked in their voluntary service area originally, helping processing volunteers, plan events. I mean, it's amazing. We have over 1,000 volunteers at the Battle Creek VA that come and do all sorts of things for our veterans. So it was great working with them, and I did that for 3 years. I spent time in our strategic planning department for about a year and a half, and then for the last 3 years I've been the public affairs officer there. So.
And you're working for VA now in a period when they have a lot of business, because you not only have the older veterans in Vietnam and earlier than that, whose needs you kind of have to attend to. You've got all these younger ones coming back out of Iraq and Afghanistan and so forth. So do you see things, particular challenges or things that the VA is having to confront now, or?
Yeah, there's a variety of challenges, and what a lot of people don't understand is everything within the VA is really set by congressional law. I mean, that's the first thing. So we have to follow the law as written, and there's been, the way laws get passed, they go through, and they typically have a number of different things added on, and pieces and parts and pieces. So you have laws that are as old as I mean, probably 50, 60, 70 years old. There's pieces of those laws. There's some of those that get adjusted. And so it makes the system a little complex at times. And I know they're working on trying to smooth some of that out now, but veterans are eligible for different things based on the time they serve, the length of time they serve, whether they're on active duty, whether they're a Purple Heart recipient, whether they have a disability that was from their military service. So there's all sorts of little parts and pieces that make people eligible for different things. And then, of course, the veterans that are post 9/11, they get different benefits altogether. They get more benefits than previous veterans were originally eligible for. So it makes it a little complex, but I think people are, Congress is trying to do the right thing for veterans, but it just makes it difficult to try to explain what exactly each person's kind of eligible for and what happens. Some is based on income. If you don't have if you're not being seen for your specific military disability, then income comes into play as well of what you're eligible for. So
it's just a large, big, complicated thing, and making a whole new generation of veterans doesn't make it simple.
No. I mean, definitely with new veterans coming, we have a transition care management group that works specifically with the post 9/11 veterans, and kind of as they come off active duty, trying to get them right into the system, which is definitely a good thing that didn't happen in the past. But in Southwest Michigan, we serve about 42,000 veterans in the 22 counties that we serve out of Battle Creek. And that's probably only about 52% of the total veteran population in those counties. And again, not all veterans need this services. Some have their own private health insurance, they're working, everything's fine, so that's good. But there's a lot of veterans that do need the services, and so continue to try to get the information out to them and making sure they understand they can come in for certain things. Some veterans that serve, on the reserves or National Guard don't realize if they were on active duty for a time, then they're eligible for certain services. Some people believe you're only a veteran if you did 20 years, like if you're retired from the military. And so there's a lot of misconceptions out there that it really gets confusing just on individuals' part. So we even talked to some Vietnam veterans that after some have been 50 years since they've been, and some of them don't realize that they're eligible for some benefits. So.
And some of them have a lot of trouble when they try to apply for them, and that comes up, and a lot of others say they get treated really well, and so forth. And some of that probably has just a lot to do with the complexity of the system, what you can't be eligible for, and so forth.
Yeah, it's both a complex system, and I certainly won't say that we're perfect as employees either. Most VA employees are dedicated to what they're doing. They choose to do that to give back to veterans. But we have 300,000 employees nationwide, so there's bound to be a handful that may not do the right thing at times, and so and that's what gets played over and over in the news is those mistakes, and that doesn't help the perception either. So we're about 30 to 35% of the people that work at the VA are veterans. So and again, even the rest that did not serve have family members. I mean, most care about the mission. They're there for a purpose. They could work other places if they chose.
Right.
So it's not. Most of them are not trying to make it more difficult. It's just, but it is complex. So.
Right. Okay. Now, to think back the time that you spent, with the reserves and so forth, are there other particular memories or impressions that kind of stand out for you that you have brought into the story yet?
Well, I do remember because I had a variety of friends who worked in a variety of areas. The actual day that we got word, and because of where we worked, we all had clearance. So we got some early notification that there was that we were going to actually go into Iraq, and they were going to shut down the post. They were going to do a lockdown. So we got word of that, and it was going to be in the evening. So we got off duty at 4 that day, and took the opportunity to leave post because we weren't sure what was going to happen. It was that was the actual start of the war. So we weren't sure. We weren't sure if we were going to tomorrow get on a plane and join, if we were going to have more units coming out. We had no idea what was going to happen. Got some early word, so we went from Fort McCoy into Madison. That was about 40 minutes away to a movie. Enjoyed our time, and had a good time, 4 of us, and got done with that about 10 or 11. I think the lockdown happened about 8 p.m. Eastern time, and that was the time they went in and invaded, and got back to post, and the MPs are like, "Where you guys been?" "Oh, just out." So we got back on post, and like I said, luckily the war from there went fairly smooth, and we were able to bring troops back. But we had no idea what was going to happen, so that was just an opportunity to blow off some steam before we knew what was going to happen. So.
Right. Okay. So I think addressed this pretty well. That is the standard kind of closing question. Overall, how do you think your time in the service affected you, or what did you take out of it?
I think time in the service is important. I recommend most people do it if they can. If they're physically able to serve. I certainly recommend. You learn a lot of structure. You learn a lot about both our military history and just how the command structure works in the military and who's who. You have to be able to name off everybody from your lieutenant all the way up to the Secretary of Defense to the President. And if we can't rattle those names off, you'll be in standing information for a while. So you learn a lot just about structure and our culture in the United States military. So yeah, I think.
Does it give you practical skills?
I think again, everybody, people have misconceptions about people who have served, whether they've served a war or not. Again, because of the stories you hear in the media, you hear about the veterans that are having problems and issues, and that does occur. And those we need to get those veterans help. But the majority of veterans come back and they're from service and they're fine, whether they've served in the overseas, whether they've served in a conflict or not. And the skills you learn in the military, again, are structure, timeliness. You will not be a minute late in the military. So, and you bring those things home with you. Just organization, listening skill, and then depending on your job series you do, some of those skills are more applicable to the private sector than others. If you're a infantry, but still any of those skills, leadership, following direction, organization, all those skills apply readily to the private sector, and people should use the people that come back from the military and build upon those skills, because they will listen, they will learn. So.
All right. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to share the story today.